Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danconia and welcome back to the Overwatch League Roundup of Season 2019. And I wanted to go through 5 players that I thought were ones to watch going into the 2020 season. Now, it's obviously still very early days, and we still could have more players coming into the league because there's more transfers that are probably going to happen. There's rumours around Paris and London that there could be movements on the way there. So, this is subject to change, and also I could make a follow-up video with another 5 players to watch going into the next season. But I thought these 5 players stood out for me. Now, this is not necessarily the best players in the league. This is not a list of the best players in the league to watch. These are the players that I think could make the most difference depending on how they perform going into next season. Now, very quickly, in the comments section below is a link to my Discord. It is now set up, it's fully working, we've got some people getting in there and having a chat. And if you want to discuss about the Overwatch League, Overwatch, Fortnite, anything on the channel, then please get in there and have a chat because, you know, I want to make this community really, really inclusive, and basically I want to include you guys in everything I can, and this Discord I really believe is the way to do that at the moment, and I think it's a great thing for us to use to just be a better community, be a more interactive community is the words I'm looking for. So in the link in the description is a Discord where a link where you can join a Discord and you can have a discussion about everything in regards to Overwatch and this channel. But without further ado, should we get into this video? So the first player I've picked out is a player that was actually signed last season. This is Lolshish. So Lolshish is on the Washington Justice right now, and Washington Justice obviously didn't have the best of seasons last season. They got somewhere at the end of the season. They started to look better, but they did bring in a whole new tank line, and these 2 players were Lolshish and Elivote. Now I picked out Lolshish here because he's the main tank. Now Lolshish and Elivote have a storied history in European contenders. They've been around the Angry Titans for a very long time, and they also won European contenders with the Angry Titans as well. And they are very good tank players. Lolshish is the main tank, and he's the younger of the 2 main tanks on the Washington Justice right now, because Washington Justice also signed Raw. I'm expecting the Washington Justice to start with Lolshish and Elivote. This was their intentions last season, and I wouldn't imagine they would have any other intentions now, considering they're still signed. It would seem odd to me that they wouldn't use them, so I'm expecting with the synergy that those 2 have, for them to be their main starting tank roster. So Lolshish could, and Elivote as well, but Lolshish mainly, could make a massive difference to the Washington Justice. If this tank line can live up to what they did with Angry Titans in European contenders, then honestly, this could be a really, really good tank line, and a tank line that does well in the league entirely. Now, it's, again, and this is what I mean about ones to watch, these players will make the difference. If Lolshish and Elivote do well for the Washington Justice, then I think the Washington Justice in themselves as a team will do very well. We saw last season them start to improve with Corey and Stratus popping off. They've added Tuber as well to their DPS line. That's looking really good. And when you look at their supports, Arc and Aim God, I think we're looking at a pretty decent support line. So it's on this tank line to kind of stitch everything together for the Washington Justice. If the Washington Justice can get this tank line working with Lolshish and Elivote, which is no reason why they shouldn't be able to considering their history, we could be looking at a dark horse. I'm not saying that they're going to be near the top of the league. That's not what I'd be saying about Washington right now. But I think they're a team that could massively improve on what they did last season. And I think a lot of that does hang on Lolshish and the tank line of the Washington Justice. Moving on, and we go to the Toronto Defiant. Now, Toronto Defiant have kind of had a major shake-up in the off-season. Toronto Defiant started off really well in 2019 and then kind of fell off because, yeah, things didn't work out. And they made some changes, and they obviously, with the homestand format this year, they've gone to a bit more of a Canadian DPS line with them obviously introducing Mangachu last year, but they've also brought in agilities, and the player we're going to look at is Surefour. So Surefour, he had an incredible inaugural season for the LA Gladiators, and he is like one of the best Western DPS around. But last year, he didn't look as brilliant as he was in the inaugural season. Now, this could be for a variety of reasons. I would probably mainly put it down to meta. Surefour is very, very flexible, right? Very, very flexible. But remember, in the early part of this season, we were grifting goats, so we weren't seeing DPS all that much. And then moving on from that, we got into a meta where we saw a lot of Mei, a lot of Reaper. And Surefour was doing pretty well on the Reaper. I remember him popping off from time to time. I think the DPS line for the Toronto Defiant is going to revolve heavily around Surefour. I think this is their star player, if you see what I mean. Surefour is the name that Toronto Defiant want to be on the posters, if you see what I mean. I'm not saying Agilities, Mangachu and Logics won't be, but Surefour is like the household name here. And if Surefour can pop off, I think a lot of this team will pop off. Their tank line perhaps isn't the strongest in the league, but I think they've got a pretty strong support line. And again, as I said, subject to change, they could still make transfers. So who knows who Toronto Defiant might bring in late in the day. But I think Surefour is very crucial to the Toronto Defiant. I think if Surefour has a good season, Toronto Defiant will have a good season. And this is what I mean about ones to watch. Ones that can make the massive difference to a team. And Surefour, as soon as I saw that they'd signed Surefour, I thought, damn, that's a really good signing. That's a signing that could turn the Toronto Defiant's fortunes around. And it's a lot of pressure to put on one player, I'm not going to lie, and it is a team game, but confidence is everything when it comes to team games. It's incredible. But Surefour could be a player that the whole team could ride on the back of in terms of confidence. So Surefour is a really crucial player for the Toronto Defiant in this up-and-coming season, and definitely one to watch. Moving on, and we go to the Los Angeles Gladiators, the former home of Surefour. Now, obviously, the Los Angeles Gladiators have had to make a lot of changes because they've lost a few players, such as Hydration to the Houston Outlaws, and obviously Surefour to the Toronto Defiant. So the Gladiators come into this season with a pretty fresh DPS line. And the one to watch here is Birdring. Now, we all know Birdring. Birdring's been in the league since the league was created, basically, but he was with the London Spitfire. He has an Overwatch League winner's medal. We know how good Birdring can be from the inaugural season. His Widowmaker was absolutely lethal. He was a great hit scan player. But it went severely wrong for Birdring last season, I think we can all agree. And the question is, and this is why he's one to watch, can Birdring regain his form? Now, obviously, similar case to Surefour, it could be that meta didn't favour Birdring. Because, remember, early season, we were in goats. Birdring was on the Zarya and didn't look brilliant, let's be honest. And then London changed things up again, Birdring kind of got dropped. And then we went into this 2-2, and then we got Orisa Hog for a bit, and then we got Orisa Sigma, and there was all these barriers on the field, and Hitscan just weren't getting stuff done, so Hitscan weren't generally used. We went into Mei, Hanzo, Reaper, and it kind of wasn't Birdring's cup of tea, if you see what I mean. We want to see Birdring on the likes of McCree and Widow. The question is, if we don't see the likes of McCree and Widow, can Birdring still be good? Because, again, the only two absolutely confirmed DPS for the Gladiators right now are Birdring and Mirror. So we need, if Gladiators are going to rely on Birdring, they need to see something from him. They need to see some sort of rejuvenation or rebirth of Birdring, should we say. And this is why he's one to watch. Because, again, if Birdring does really well for the Gladiators, they've got a good tank line, they've got a decent backline supports, and if their DPS can keep doing what the previous DPS were doing for the Gladiators, then we could see a very formidable LA Gladiators team. but it rests on the shoulders of Birdring and Mirror. Birdring, with all that experience, needs to come up with the goods for the LA Gladiators going into the 2020 season. The next one to watch is an interesting one, and this is where we go to the Houston Outlaws. This is Mecco, the off-tank. Now, this was probably one of the bigger surprises of this transfer window. Mecco leaving the NYXL and wanting a new challenge and then turning up at the Houston Outlaws. Now, obviously, the Houston Outlaws had a very, very tough 2019 season with all of the off-stage struggles, should we call it. And they've made a few signings this transfer window, and it's actually made a big difference to the way this Houston Outlaws team look. And Mecco is an interesting one. So Mecco has spent his entire career on Korean rosters, right? Going back to Apex, going back to, Contender's career, going back to his time on LW Blue, and obviously his time at New York Excelsior, he was surrounded by Koreans as well. But now he's going into a mixed roster at the Houston Outlaws, with the likes of Hydration, Blase, Dante, Boink, Repel, and others. So, how will Mecco fit into this Houston Outlaws team? And we forget that he's probably going to be partnered at the moment with Muma, unless there's any change at the Houston Outlaws between now and the start of the season. So, how is Mecco going to fit in there? He's got to learn a new language, he's got to learn English. I'm sure he knows some already from his time with New York, but he's got to fit in. And I think this is the challenge that Mecco actually wanted to put to himself. He wanted this sort of challenge of going into a mixed roster and getting along with everyone. And this is going to be one I really, really, really am going to keep a very close eye on, because I will be fascinated to see. Mecco could be a massive difference maker for the Houston Outlaws. Mecco is a fantastic off-tank. Fantastic off-tank. He's been at the top of Overwatch esports for years now, and constantly at the top of the Overwatch League with the NYXL. Maybe not winning it, don't get me wrong, but he's been right up there with the likes of Fury and Janu and people like that, and Choi Hyobin, to name another one. So this is a really massive signing for the Houston Outlaws, and Mecco could be a massive difference maker for the Houston Outlaws, and that's why in the 2020 season he's going to be one of my one to watch. So the last one to watch on this list for today is the Shanghai Dragons, and this is Lip. So I talked a little bit about Lip in the video covering the Shanghai Masters Invitational. He plays for the Shanghai Dragons, as I said just now, and Lip was kind of the off pick, if you see what I mean, for the Shanghai Dragons. Because if you look at their other DPS, you've got DM, Deer, and Ding. Well, they are all kind of tried and tested right now for the Shanghai Dragons. They've got Fleta. Fleta we knew from the Soul Dynasty. In the inaugural season, Fleta was very good on the hit scan. Very similar to Birdring, if you saw what I mean. Lip, however, Lip was the only DPS this year that Shanghai have sourced from outside of the league. And he came from Blossom. Blossom, they're a good team, don't get me wrong, but they're definitely not at the very pinnacle of Korea. So, Lip clearly stood out to the Shanghai Dragons. But then, I saw him in the Shanghai Masters Invitational, and he didn't just look good, he looked like the best DPS the Shanghai Dragons had. Shanghai looked very good in that Invitational, so this player could be a massive, massive difference maker for the Shanghai Dragons this season. A Rookie of the Season contender maybe, even though we're not even in the season yet. It's a very big possibility. And he is still very young, 18, he's got a lot to learn, and he's got some great, great players around him. When you look at the Shanghai Dragons, he's got the experience of people like Fleta and Envy, and then you've got the experience from the contender's career, like Elijah Gon. Then you've got more experience with Luffy and Izzyaki, and then you've got experience from NA contenders with Stand 1, Void as well, and Gaguri. So, I think this Shanghai Dragons roster in general is very well rounded, but I think Lip has the possibility to be one of the standout DPS for the Shanghai Dragons, but perhaps not even just the Shanghai Dragons, a standout DPS for the 2020 season, from what I've seen so far. He could be a massive, massive find for the Shanghai Dragons, and a massive difference maker going into the 2020 season. But that is going to be it for my 5 ones to watch for now. If you've got some ones to watch, put them in the description below or in the Discord, as I said earlier, and I might well follow this up with another 5 ones to watch video at some point near the end of the year, or maybe in January or something, because we've still got a bit of ways to go till the start of the season, and I've got to find content from summer, let's be honest. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.